Chapter 2876, You Must Lose. Chapter 2876, You Must Lose. Qiu Ziyu stared at Zhuo Qingwan in astonishment. What was she doing? Zhuo Qingwan filled a small porcelain vial with her blood. The vial was only the size of her pinky. The color of the blood could be seen through the walls of the vial. It was as if the vial was on fire. It was such a strange scene that Qiu Ziyu felt uneasy. This is the true phoenix blood. Zhuo Qingwan handed the vial to Qiu Ziyu. It'll give the drinker a brief energy boost. Sheng Changtian knows how to use it. Give it to him. He'll know what to do when the time comes. Zhuo Qingwan sounded both indifferent and confident. Sheng Changtian knew how to use it. Had Zhuo Qingwan always been in touch with Sheng Changtian? Did they have a deal? Qiu Ziyu felt he had been brought in on a secret. Zhuo Qingwan glanced at Qiu Ziyu. If a fourth person knows about this. Qiu Ziyu raised his hand. I swear on my life, I won't tell anybody. Zhuo Qingwan nodded and said proudly, You know what will happen? Qiu Ziyu's stomach fell. He regretted his decision and wondered if he had done the right thing by coming to Zhuo Qingwan. Somehow, he felt he had gotten himself into trouble. He was going to leave when Zhuo Qingwan's voice rang out behind him. Stop! Qiu Ziyu froze. Zhuo Qingwan didn't say anything at first, as if she was weighing something in her mind. Finally, she made up her mind. She took a phoenix-shaped jade pendant out of her pocket and gave it to Qiu Ziyu. Qiu Ziyu was perplexed. Zhuo Qingwan said, Tell Sheng Changtian that he owes me a big favor. Was this pendant so powerful? Qiu Ziyu looked at it in bewilderment. It looked like an ordinary object. Why was it a big favor? Put a drop of true phoenix blood on the pendant, and it'll wake the thing inside, Zhuo Qingwan explained. Qiu Ziyu nodded and left right away. He wanted to get back before the battle ended. Zhuo Qingwan smiled as she watched Qiu Ziyu leave. Jun Linyuan, you care about Feng Wu so much. In that case you can watch her die. It won't feel so good unless you're there when it happens. Zhuo Qingwan closed the door behind her and strolled toward the arena. Meanwhile, Feng Wu and LV Haobei were standing on the stage. LV Haobei had a stern look on his face. I didn't see this coming. I never thought you could defeat 3 people in a row. Feng Wu nodded. You're going to be even more surprised. LV Haobei grinned. No, you will definitely lose this time. Feng Wu said. Is that so? Chapter 2877, What a Shame. Chapter 2877, What a Shame. LV Haobei said. I became a spiritual king last year. I don't think you've been a spiritual king for that long. Feng Wu said. Less than 3 days. LV Haobei said. Have you learned the skills yet? Feng Wu said. No. LV Haobei said. Have you stabilized your cultivation level yet? Feng Wu said. No. LV Haobei said. How are you going to win against me then? Feng Wu said. Are you here to talk or to fight? The audience laughed. Feng Wu seems impatient. She must be. I would be impatient too, if LV Haobei keeps on nagging. Shut up. He's a spiritual king. That's right. How strange. I used to think spiritual kings are so powerful, but after Feng Wu defeated 3 spiritual kings from the military academy, I don't respect them as much as before. Didn't they say the military academy was going to win? I think Imperial College has a better chance of winning now. The audience didn't try to keep their voices down. LV Haobei heard them. He used to be treated like a genius, and his face turned scarlet red when he heard those words. He stared at Feng Wu with eyes filled with hatred. Feng Wu shrugged. I'm not laughing at you. LV Haobei was furious. She wasn't laughing, but her indifference was worse. Feng Wu, I was going to show you some mercy, but if you have a death wish, I'll give you what you want. LV Haobei then made his move. He was good at swordplay. His sword was called Thunder, and he had mastered the sword energy. The sky was filled with rampant lightning. LV Haobei pointed the sword at Feng Wu. The thunder element. Yihan put a hand to her chest. It's the most useful element in battle, and the hardest to master. Is Feng Wu going to be alright? Although Feng Wu had won 3 battles in a row, the others all attributed it to luck. They didn't think Feng Wu could defeat LV Haobei. The dynasty team had lost miserably to LV Haobei's thunder the year before. It was so humiliating. The memory was still fresh. They would never forget it. Feng Wu, watch out. Seeing the lightning rush toward Feng Wu, the students were so nervous that they held their breaths. Some even shouted, Feng Wu, you've already done a great job. Just give up. You're not LV Haobei's match. Many Imperial College students chimed in. They weren't shooting Feng Wu down, but were worried about her. Chu Yan rubbed her chin and nodded. I knew it. Feng Wu will lose as soon as LV Haobei attacks. She's so much weaker than LV Haobei. Jun Linyuan smirked inwardly. Chu Yan went on, having no idea what the Crown Prince was thinking. 3 strikes. Feng Wu will be defeated within 3 strikes, and LV Haobei will leave some marks on her. Gongshu Hongzhu said. Feng Wu should consider herself lucky if she can come out of this alive. What a shame. Her pretty face is going to be destroyed by thunder. He glanced at Jun Linyuan as he spoke. Chapter 2878. Why? Chapter 2878. Why? Your Royal Highness, don't you agree with me? Jun Linyuan looked at Gongshu Hongzhu, as if he was looking at a dead man. The energy in his dark eyes was as lethal as the sharpest blade. Gongshu Hongzhu didn't know what to say. He rubbed his neck, feeling uneasy. When he looked at the Crown Prince, he thought that he saw a smirk on his face. An idea suddenly struck Gongshu Hongzhu. Was His Royal Highness in love with Feng Wu? No. No. Gongshu Hongzhu then recalled the rumor he had heard before. His Royal Highness was supposed to be madly in love with Zhuo Qingwan, the sacred lady of the Firmament Palace. Feng Wu was just a nobody. He calmed down and wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. When he looked at the battle again, he thought he was going to have a heart attack. Because LV Haobei was losing. Feng Wu was attacking. When Gongshu Hongzhu looked up, Feng Wu just happened to strike out. Star and moon. Thunder and soul. Die. The thunder element. What Feng Wu used was the real thunder element. The fallen star sword struck LV Haobei, while everybody watched. Shit. Sheng Changtian had been sitting idly in his seat, but he sprang to his feet when he saw this. He wasn't the only one who had that reaction. Even Chu Yan jumped to her feet. Her face went very pale. Because they were more capable, they knew the result earlier than the others. The audience were all looking nervously at the fallen star sword. They wondered if it would hit LV Haobei. LV Haobei looked astonished. He then panicked. Yes, he did. The sword energy was terrifying. Where did Feng Wu learn her skills? Why were there streaks of lightning around her sword? The rumbling sound suffocated LV Haobei. He couldn't believe it. Feng Wu had been using the fire element before this. If LV Haobei were to lose, he had expected to be defeated by fire. However, Feng Wu suddenly switched to the thunder element, and was even stronger than LV Haobei. Run! That was his first reaction. However, the lightning had formed a web in the air. The crackling noise filled the air. LV Haobei looked up and was terrified. That was a scary lightning web. The web grew bigger, but it wasn't coming down. LV Haobei looked at Feng Wu. Amidst the lightning flashes, she looked very fair. Her dress flapped in the air. She closed her eyes and pointed her sword at the sky. The energy surged and was injected into the lightning web. Even the sky shook. So did the air and the ground. LV Haobei was no longer panicking, only because he was terrified. It felt like a sword was hanging above his head, and he didn't know when it would fall. How is that even possible? Chu Yan smacked the table, her lips trembling. Why? Why can she do that? She. Chapter 2879. Gong Sun Mu, you're dead. Chapter 2879. Gong Sun Mu, you're dead. Chu Yan smacked the table, her lips trembling. Why? Why can she do that? She. Why could she do that? How could she force LV Haobei's hand? That was LV Haobei, one of the best students of the military academy. He was the second best student in the academy. No, LV Haobei must have more cards up his sleeve. He can turn things around. I'm sure of it. Chu Yan tried to cheer herself up. Gongshu Hongzhu also nodded. Don't worry. This is only temporary. LV Haobei won't lose. How can he lose to such a girl? Such a girl? What girl? The crown prince had kept silent until now. He spoke in an indifferent tone, as if he didn't care about anything they were talking about. Indifferent. Behind the crown prince, Feng rolled his eyes. Gongshu Hongzhu said, Your Royal Highness, I remember who the girl is. She's Feng Wu, the girl who destroyed her own cultivation because she was too greedy. I don't know what happened, but she's cultivating again. It doesn't matter because her character won't take her very far. Even if she begs us to become a student of the military academy, we won't take her, right? Feng rolled his eyes again. This Gongshu Hongzhu had no idea how much danger he was in. The crown prince stared at Gongshu Hongzhu and smiled coldly. Gongshu Hongzhu was confused. Somehow, he felt the crown prince didn't like him very much. He had been trying so hard to please the crown prince. What should he do now? He was still trying to figure out his next move, when a loud thump made him jump. He looked in the direction of the noise. Holy crap! A streak of lightning struck right down at LV Haobei. This can't be happening. Gongshu Hongzhu smacked the table. It's not that fast. Why couldn't LV Haobei get away? Gong Sun Mu offered a kind reminder. Our Xiao will use ground control, so that LV Haobei can't move. He can only watch the lightning fall on him. Ground control. Gongshu Hongzhu's stomach lurched. Isn't that a lost skill? Why does she know it? Doesn't ground control use the earth element? Isn't she fire and thunder? How? Gong Sun Mu couldn't hide the satisfaction in his voice. The earth element is nothing. If our Xiao Wu wants to, she can master all the elements. Gongshu Hongzhu didn't believe a word of it. Just then, the crown prince glanced at Gong Sun Mu. Your Xiao Wu. Gong Sun Mu burst out in a cold sweat. He had been careless. He was over the moon after seeing Feng Wu win 4 times in a row, and he had forgotten a certain thing. He immediately said, No, yours. Feng gave Gong Sun Mu the thumbs up for his fast reaction. Gongshu Hongzhu, who had no idea what was going on, smirked. Gong Sun Mu, you're dead. Chapter 2880. Is Feng Wu His Royal Highness's fiancé? Chapter 2880. Is Feng Wu His Royal Highness's fiancé? Gongshu Hongzhu was so loud that everybody nearby looked at him instead of Feng Wu. I'm dead. Gong Sun Mu looked at Gongshu Hongzhu in bewilderment. Gongshu Hongzhu said, What did you say? You said Feng Wu is His Royal Highness's? Gong Sun Mu, you've just committed a capital crime. Gong Sun Mu said, What did I do? Gongshu Hongzhu said righteously, Don't you know that her engagement to His Royal Highness was annulled? Gong Sun Mu said, I do, but... Gongshu Hongzhu cut him off. Do you know what that means? It means His Royal Highness doesn't like Feng Wu. No, he detests her. The crown prince was furious. Gongshu Hongzhu said, Moreover, have you thought about the other young lady? She's going to be the crown prince's future wife. The crown prince himself had no idea what he was talking about. Gongshu Hongzhu said arrogantly, You just said Feng Wu belongs to His Royal Highness. You should kneel and apologize. Gong Sun Mu was speechless. Gongshu Hongzhu said, His Royal Highness hasn't killed you because he's noble and lenient, but I can't let this go. Jun Linyuan was astonished. There was no expression on his face, but he felt like an erupting volcano inside. Feng wanted to give Gongshu Hongzhu the thumbs up. That sycophant was surprisingly unyielding now. Normally, Feng would have intervened and kicked Gongshu Hongzhu out, but he didn't do so. He pretended he hadn't heard anything. He wanted to see if the proud crown prince would finally admit that Feng Wu was his fiancée. Feng couldn't see Jun Linyuan's face from his angle, so he quietly moved around until he could see Jun Linyuan's profile. Meanwhile, Jun Linyuan gave Feng a stern look. Feng was speechless. He thought, Your Royal Highness, why is it so hard for you to openly admit who the girl is to you? Jun Linyuan's earlobes turned pink, and his lips parted. Feng was thrilled. Yes. Finally, he was going to say something. Do it. Feng could hardly control his excitement when he heard footsteps. He ignored them and kept his gaze on the crown prince. It would be such a shame to let this opportunity go to waste. Nobody as dumb as Gongshu Hongzhu would appear again. The footsteps moved closer and closer. Miss Qingwan is here. Is she here to watch the competition? I heard she's the real fiancée of His Royal Highness. She's going to humiliate Feng Wu. I'm so nervous. Gongshu Hongzhu looked up to find Zhuo Qingwan strutting toward them. Miss Zhuo, Sacred Lady Qingwan. He waved at Zhuo Qingwan in excitement. Zhuo Qingwan couldn't take her eyes off Jun Linyuan and moved toward him without knowing it. Gongshu Hongzhu asked the question everybody wanted to ask. Miss Qingwan, is Feng Wu His Royal Highness's fiancé? Chapter 2881, I don't believe you. Chapter 2881, I don't believe you. The entire arena became dead silent. Everybody on and off the stage turned to look at Zhuo Qingwan. Even the crown prince gave Zhuo Qingwan a grim look. Feng was secretly amused. His Royal Highness had been too shy to answer that question when he had the chance. Now that Miss Zhuo was here, things would become very interesting. Feng sighed inwardly that Granny Gong wasn't here to watch it. Many students of the military academy in the audience looked at Zhuo Qingwan and were amazed by her ethereal beauty. She has perfect posture. No wonder she's the Sacred Lady of Firmament Palace. Feng Wu has been calling herself the fiancée of His Royal Highness. The real one is here now, and she's going to be humiliated. Yes, she might have won 4 battles in a row, but it doesn't matter how capable she is. His Royal Highness's wife is the real winner. Tang Mingjiang, Sun Jinyuan, LV Haobei and Lu Qinghe had been so upset that they wanted to cry, but now they all cheered up. Yes, it was a humiliation to lose all the battles, but they wouldn't feel so ashamed if Feng Wu suffered a bigger humiliation. They all gave Zhuo Qingwan eager looks. Say it. Turn Feng Wu into a joke. Zhuo Qingwan only stood there and seemed embarrassed. Fans of the Dynasty team reacted differently. Chu Chu said, "Why is she here now? She sure knows how to pick her timing." Sun Yu said with a grimace, "Xiao Wu finally won 4 battles, and she's never been as popular as at this moment. If Zhuo Qingwan tells the truth, it'll destroy Feng Wu's confidence." Other people were also worried about Feng Wu's feelings. Only Chen Zian gave them a strange look. Why are you whining? Xiao Wu is obviously going to be the winner in the end. He was rather looking forward to Zhuo Qingwan's reply. The others glanced at their captain and turned away. Their captain was so naive that none of them would believe him. In the audience, Yihan put a hand to her chest. I'm so nervous. What should we do now? Chaoga, what should we do? Chaoga glanced at her. What do you mean? The engagement. Yihan panicked. Isn't the rumor that Feng Wu is His Royal Highness's fiancé? Zhuo Qingwan is here to clear things up. And His Royal Highness is here too. They're going to turn Feng Wu into a laughingstock. Chaoga wanted to roll her eyes. And where did you get that idea? Yihan said. Feng Wu isn't His Royal Highness's fiancé. Chaoga said, she is. Yihan said, Zhuo Qingwan is the fiancé. Chaoga said, no, she isn't. Yihan said, are you sure? Are you saying that Feng Wu is the fiancé? Is that true? Chaoga said, yes. Yihan said, like I'm going to believe you. Chapter 2882, His Royal Highness's Thoughts. Chapter 2882, His Royal Highness's Thoughts. Chaoga was speechless. Yihan said, I'm so nervous. Why is Zhuo Qingwan here? Can't she say it in private? Xiao Wu will be so embarrassed. Chaoga was speechless. Meanwhile, Gongshu Hongzhu felt he had waited long enough, so he asked Zhuo Qingwan again. Miss Qingwan, what's the matter? Do you have some scruples? He thought. Please tell everybody you're the crown prince's fiancé. While all the people were looking at Zhuo Qingwan, she was looking at Jun Linyuan. Would he tell the truth? If he made that announcement? But he hadn't said anything. Did that mean he wasn't sure about Feng Wu? I still have a chance. Yes, that must be it. At that thought, Zhuo Qingwan smiled at Gongshu Hongzhu. How about we wait until the competition is over? Gongshu Hongzhu could only smile wryly. Miss Qingwan, you're such a kind woman. That's so rare these days. Kind? Feng Wu shook her head. Zhuo Qingwan had drawn the most attention, so few people were watching Feng Wu. They all thought Zhuo Qingwan was the crown prince's fiancé, a title everybody envied. Feng Wu turned to Sheng Changtian. Your turn. Sheng Changtian sat quietly in his seat. He had been trying to figure out how Feng Wu had won 4 battles in a row. After replaying everything in his head, he still couldn't come up with an answer. Hence, he raised his hand. I request a timeout for an hour. The audience murmured. A timeout? Last year, Imperial College had asked for a timeout after each battle, just to throw Military Academy into confusion, but it still couldn't change the outcome. What was Sheng Changtian doing now? The chief referee would decide if the request was granted. Usually, there wouldn't be any problem, so Gongshu Hongzhu wasn't worried at all. He looked at Jun Linyuan in expectation. Your Royal Highness, since Sheng Changtian asking for the Crown Prince's opinion was only a formality. When the Crown Prince gave permission, Gongshu Hongzhu would announce the timeout. To Gongshu Hongzhu's astonishment, the Crown Prince suddenly snorted and spoke. Denied. What? The other people were as surprised as Gongshu Hongzhu was. Denied. Why? They didn't even know that was possible. Only Feng knew the answer. He thought. You fools have no idea what's going on in His Royal Highness's head. He knew, but he wouldn't tell anybody. He had a feeling that the engagement wouldn't be a secret for much longer. Gongshu Hongzhu was dazed, and gave the Crown Prince a pleading look. However, he knew there was no room for negotiation once the Crown Prince made up his mind. Gongshu Hongzhu turned to Sheng Changtian and said sternly, let the last round begin. He believed Sheng Changtian was capable enough to defeat all 5 opponents, and starting the battle earlier wouldn't change anything. Sheng Changtian clenched the object in his hand. Qiu Ziyu had given it to him, when everybody was looking at Zhuo Qingwan. Chapter 2883, Sheng Changtian can die but not Feng Wu. Chapter 2883, Sheng Changtian can die, but not Feng Wu. He had wanted to communicate with Zhuo Qingwan, but it seemed he wouldn't get that chance. Realizing he was working with the future wife of the Crown Prince, Sheng Changtian was very pleased. In that case, he rose to his feet and walked onto the stage. He had so many cards up his sleeve that he felt he could easily defeat Feng Wu. He replayed all of Feng Wu's moves in his head, and he believed he could win the battle without breaking a sweat. Sheng Changtian, take them down, all 5 of them. While Sheng Changtian was walking up to the stage, the Military Academy students cheered loudly. Sheng Changtian was full of confidence. He raised his hand and gestured downward. Immediately, the Military Academy students quieted down. Not everybody could do that. The next second, Sheng Changtian raised his fist. Victory belongs to the Military Academy. Wow! The silence was broken by the excited Military Academy students. They applauded and roared at the top of their lungs. Victory belongs to the Military Academy. Victory belongs to the Military Academy. Victory belongs to the Military Academy. Confidence was written all over their faces. They believed Sheng Changtian would lead their school to victory. He would bring glory to them all. Gongshu Hongzhu was also thrilled. He turned to Jun Linyuan and said excitedly, Your Royal Highness, that's Sheng Changtian, our top student. He's amazing. Last year, he crushed Imperial College's team and brought glory to our school. Our school? Gong Sunmu didn't like the sound of that. The Crown Prince was a graduate of Imperial College, not the Military Academy. Jun Linyuan's face remained expressionless. Gongshu Hongzhu went on. Sheng Changtian is a peak level 1 spiritual king, and can rise to level 2 at any moment. Last year on the battlefield, he took down 10 cultivators of his level all at once. After a year, he's much stronger than before. Your Royal Highness, Sheng Changtian will bring victory to the Military Academy once more. Feng Wu will never be his match. I have a request. Everybody looked at him. What request? Gongshu Hongzhu said. One never knows what will happen in a fight. Anyone can get injured easily, especially now. Jun Linyuan said. Shut up. Gongshu Hongzhu said. Your Royal Highness, He hadn't said what the request was yet. Feng cast a stern look at him. Elder Gongshu, you want them to sign a disclaimer, so that neither is responsible for killing the other, don't you? Gongshu Hongzhu was shocked. How did the man know? Feng was very direct. Sheng Changtian can die, but if anything happens to Miss Feng Wu, well. Gongshu Hongzhu was furious. What did he mean by that? Of course Sheng Changtian couldn't die. He was the treasurer of the military academy. Feng said, Elder Gongshu, I think you should talk less. Gongshu Hongzhu was speechless. What was happening? Why were all his requests turned down? It was so humiliating. He rubbed his head and felt something was off. What was it? Chapter 2884 Killing Moves. Chapter 2884 Killing Moves. He carefully recalled everything that had happened today. He was sure he would be able to find out what went wrong. Meanwhile, Sheng Changtian was talking to Feng Wu and didn't notice what was going on with the referees. He stretched out his hands and clapped. Good job, Miss Feng Wu, I'm impressed, he said in a condescending tone. I thought you were only a junior member at first. I guess everybody makes mistakes sometimes. Feng Wu said, You make a lot more mistakes than that. Sheng Changtian stared at Feng Wu for a while before he suddenly chuckled and shook his head. They were right. You don't take compliments well. Feng Wu said, They? Sheng Changtian said. Did you think I was just sitting there while you were fighting? In fact, I found out everything about you. Feng Wu asked, Is that so? Sheng Changtian said, I've collected all the information on you. I know your most powerful stances, the elements you excel in, your defense ability, and your other fields of specialty. He felt very satisfied. Zhuo Qingwan was an excellent partner. She had gotten Qiu Ziyu to deliver all that information. A person who knew their enemy well was invincible. Sheng Changtian thought he had seen through Feng Wu and could easily defeat her. Feng Wu looked at him. What information can you possibly collect in such a short time? Don't make me laugh. Sheng Changtian said, Young lady, I know a lot more than you think. For instance, I know the formations and medicines you're good at. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. Who told you that? Sheng Changtian lowered his voice. Take a wild guess. Zhuo Qingwan frowned and thought. Sheng Changtian, do you have a death wish? Sheng Changtian felt a chill run down his spine. It suddenly occurred to him that Zhuo Qingwan was the crown prince's future wife, which meant he could get to know the crown prince through her. At that thought, he stared at Feng Wu, the girl Zhuo Qingwan hated. You're very brave, he said. You know you're going to lose, but you're still going to fight me. I admire your courage. Feng Wu said, You talk too much. Let's begin. She charged at him right after that. Striking first would help her gain the upper hand. Will Feng Wu win? Chu Chu asked Sun Yu nervously. Sun Yu said, What do you think? Chu Chu shook his head. I think there's no hope at all. Everybody turned to Chen Ziyun. Ziyan, what about you? Do you think Feng Wu will win? Chen Ziyan had always been the most optimistic one. But even he hesitated this time. Maybe, Sun Yu said. If even you aren't sure, then she's definitely going to lose. Chu Chu said. Feng Wu is only a junior level 1 spiritual king. But Sheng Changtian is a peak level 1 spiritual king. There's almost an entire level between them. By then, Feng Wu had exchanged 99 blows with Sheng Changtian. All her stances were killing moves. Feng Wu's face was cold and stern, whereas Sheng Changtian was fighting with just one hand. Even then his movements looked unhurried. One hand was enough to fend off his opponent. Chapter 2885 Did she lose? 1. Chapter 2885 Did she lose? 1. 100 blows. 200. 300. Sheng Changtian still kept a hand behind his back and showed no sign of losing ground. That was how capable he was. Sheng Changtian is going to win, Sun Yu said anxiously. He's only using half of his power, while Feng Wu is giving all she has. Even so, Sheng Changtian still has the upper hand. The others realized that as well. Chen Ziyan nodded. Who's going up there when Feng Wu comes back? Sun Yu said. They only have Sheng Changtian left, and we still have 4 players. I think the strongest should go first to stall him then. Chu Chu said. That won't work. Sheng Changtian is too powerful to be stalled. We can't exhaust him that way. They all fell silent. That was right. Winning this battle was next to impossible. Defeating the military academy was much harder than that. Feng Wu was still losing ground, and Sheng Changtian was trying to corner her. Everybody thought Feng Wu was going to lose. Chu Yin was gloating, and Gongshu Hongzhu was extremely excited. They all waited to see Sheng Changtian kick Feng Wu off the stage and end her winning streak. However, they waited and waited, but that still didn't happen. Feng Wu was still fighting. Although her opponent had the upper hand, she was faster and nimbler. Sheng Changtian barely left any marks on her. He couldn't kick her off the stage either. The audience was surprised. Feng Wu was so persistent. Yihan was amazed. She's still standing. How did she dodge all those attacks? For the last hour, no one had looked away from the pair that was fighting. They finally realized a stunning fact. Although Feng Wu was weaker than Sheng Changtian, she could always spot an opportunity. Whenever she had the chance, she would attack. After that, she would go back to dodging his blows. Was she stalling? Sheng Changtian felt so annoyed. He said, You know you're going to lose, but you just won't give up. I don't know where you find that courage. Feng Wu said firmly, I'm going to win. Sheng Changtian laughed. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Feng Wu, if you win, you can have my head. He made his move after that. A ball of fire appeared in his hand, and it soon spread on the ground. He and Feng Wu were then trapped inside a ring of fire. Sheng Changtian said, This is a fighting ring. You have nowhere to run now. Let the real battle begin. He opened his palm, and a sword landed in his right palm. It's white flame. That was one of the military academy students. Feng Wu has forced Sheng Changtian to use white flame. I'm impressed. LV Haobei said arrogantly. Feng Wu is dead. Lu Qinghe nodded as well. Changtian is finally getting serious. Tang Mingjiang said. Once the ring is drawn, Feng Wu can't jump around like a flea anymore. She has to stay in the ring. There's nowhere to go. The Imperial College students grew anxious. Chapter 2886. Did she lose? 2. Chapter 2886. Did she lose? 2. Had Sheng Changtian been playing with Feng Wu until now? He had the upper hand earlier, when he played around with Feng Wu. What would happen to her when he turned serious? It was so scary. Sheng Changtian had indeed turned serious. White flames spurted out from the tip of his sword. They surged into the sky like a shooting star. Anything can happen during a battle. I won't say sorry if I destroy your pretty face. Sheng Changtian finally realized how capable Feng Wu was. He no longer treated her as a weak girl, but as a real opponent. He took her seriously now. 9 wings. He struck out with his sword. Endless sword energy charged at Feng Wu, so ferocious that it seemed to tear the space open. Many people were filled with terror. The crown prince had been casually leaning back in his chair, but he narrowed his eyes a little. No one could describe that burst of energy. So far, Feng Wu had never met such a formidable opponent. She was a junior level 1 spiritual king, while Sheng Changtian was a peak level 1 spiritual king. She had just become a spiritual king, but he had been one for years. There was a huge gap between their power, but so what? Feng Wu's eyes burned with fighting spirit. Everybody thought she couldn't do it. Everybody thought she would lose. No one had any hope. Feng Wu smiled, and her dress flapped in the wind. I'm standing here today. I'll let the world hear my voice. She took a deep breath, and the fallen star sword appeared in her hand. Gaping ground. Cracking ground. Ground control. Icy ground. Thunder ground. Fire ground. Feng Wu used the skills from the Guardian of the Earth. She had been practicing them for a long time. These were from a secret script that she had found in the tombs of the Sinal grassland a while ago. Before today, she had only used the first stance, but now, she used all 9 of them. Daze, reduce speed and freeze. The fallen star sword was ready to destroy. It took Sheng Changtian a long time to activate his most lethal move. He wanted to end the battle with one stance and enjoy the glory and admiration afterward. What he didn't know was that he hadn't learned enough about Feng Wu's skills from Zhuqing Wan. The real Feng Wu was much tougher. He had never seen a junior level 1 spiritual king exert such power. Thump! Feng Wu's strike nearly cut the sky in half. It didn't stop there, but kept moving forward until it clashed with Sheng Changtian's sword. Lightning filled the sky, and the clashing blades gave off a blinding light. The audience thought they were going blind. The scene was beyond description. Everybody watched with wide-open eyes. Who would win? Who would lose? It all depended on this strike. They saw spiritual essence ripple out from where the two blades clashed. It was as if a volcano had erupted. Boom! The collision set off an explosion. Everybody's face turned yellow-orange in the light. The spiritual essence was like tidal waves. White flame couldn't withstand the pressure. It shattered, and the shards fell to the ground. Chapter 2887. Did she lose? 3. Chapter 2887. Did she lose? 3. As everybody watched, the fallen star sword flew back to Feng Wu's hand. Her long red dress flapped in the wind. She looked as pretty as a picture. Her skin was as white as snow. She looked like a fairy descending to this world. Time seemed to freeze for a moment. No one made a sound. Holy crap! Everybody was astonished when they finally realized what had happened. The military academy students sat there, looking like they had been struck by lightning. The Imperial College students howled in excitement. OMG! I can't believe it. Did Feng Wu win? Did Feng Wu really win? Sheng Changtian's white flame was destroyed, right? Please tell me that I didn't imagine that. Did someone say white flame would slaughter her, and that forcing Sheng Changtian to use white flame was the best she could do? Not only did she force his hand, she also destroyed his sword. The Imperial College students were so excited that they seemed to lose their minds. All the past humiliation was gone. Members of Dynasty Team looked at one another. They didn't dare cheer loudly, because they feared this wasn't real. Members of the military academy were speechless. No words could describe how shocked and devastated they were. Of the referees, Chu Yun was speechless. Gongshu Hongzhu didn't know what to say. They also looked like they had been struck by lightning. This isn't real. It can't be. How can this happen? Gongshu Hongzhu murmured. That's not possible. Gong Sun Mu raised his chin and glanced at Chu Yun. How did Xiao Wu do? After all these years, he could finally get back at her. How did she do? You saw it. Chu Yun cursed inwardly. Who taught that girl? God Mu, please take her away, thought Chu Yun. God Mu was the deity of this continent. Mu as in Mujiozhou. The smoke finally cleared. That ring of fire had disappeared. Shards of white flame were scattered on the ground. Sheng Changtian looked at Feng Wu with glassy eyes. His hair band was broken, and his long hair had fallen to his shoulders, giving him a grim look. Feng Wu held the fallen star sword behind her, and nodded at Sheng Changtian. You fought well. Those words woke Sheng Changtian up. His brain started working again, and his eyes focused on Feng Wu's face. You broke my ring of fire. You destroyed my white flame. You've humiliated me in the worst possible way. That's just great. Sheng Changtian suddenly laughed wildly. I've never lost to anyone my age. Today is the first time. He stared at Feng Wu. His eyes lit up once more with fighting spirit. Chapter 2888. Did she lose? 4. Chapter 2888. Did she lose? 4. Sheng Changtian stared at Feng Wu, his eyes frighteningly bright. White flame was gone, but he wasn't going to give up just yet. People reacted differently to this. The military academy students were excited and nervously waited to see what would happen next. The Imperial College students began to panic. Sheng Changtian looked like he had more cards up his sleeve. What would Feng Wu do? Would she lose? They wanted to cry when they imagined that they were going to lose the advantage again. Everybody kept their eyes on the stage, too nervous to breathe. Who was going to win? Sun Yu and Chen Ziyan had the same question. Chen Ziyan said, I think it's a 50-50 chance. That was to say, the Imperial College still had a 50% chance of winning this competition. Feng Wu, you have to win. Many people clenched their fists and gritted their teeth. Sheng Changtian grinned at Feng Wu. You should give up now. Feng Wu shook her head. Sheng Changtian said, I'm not joking. If you don't surrender now, I won't give you another chance. Feng Wu just smirked. Sheng Changtian feigned a sorry tone. Why don't you cherish your life? Don't you want to live? The Imperial College students responded with loud boos. You're the one who's going to lose, and you're asking Feng Wu to surrender. You're shameless. Bring it on. Xiao Wu will kick your ass. All you can do is talk. Show us some moves. Make a breakthrough now if you're really that capable. Yi Han cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted in Sheng Changtian's direction. Feng Wu said in amusement, Did you hear that? Normally, Sheng Changtian would have lost his temper, but he was very calm now. There was an eerie smile on his face. Feng Wu was on guard. Was Sheng Changtian finally going to show his cards? She couldn't wait to see what it was. The next moment, rumble, unrestrained spiritual essence filled the air. What was? Shit! Look at Sheng Changtian. Sun Yu cried out. He was loud enough for everybody to hear. They all looked at Sheng Changtian. To their astonishment, Sheng Changtian had made a breakthrough. He was a peak level 1 spiritual king, and he had just risen to level 2. Everyone was speechless. Yi Han, who had been shouting at Sheng Changtian a moment ago, didn't know what to say. She wanted to cut off her own tongue. Everybody around her gave her sympathetic looks. Chaoga said, Are you sure you're not from the military academy? Yi Han said, I. Sheng Changtian sat on the ground with his legs crossed and absorbed all the spiritual essence. He was a level 2 spiritual king now. Feng Wu was only a junior level 1 spiritual king. The gap between their powers had just increased. It was unbelievable. Feng Wu is invincible when she fights people of her own level. But Sheng Changtian is no longer on that level. Those who knew Feng Wu well were worried. Chapter 2889. Did she lose? 5. Chapter 2889. Did she lose? 5. Gongsun Mu was very concerned. What should he do? Feng Wu was going to lose. Chu Chu was exasperated. What are our chances now? Still 50-50? Everybody looked at Chen Ziyun. He was the most capable cultivator here, so the others all wanted his opinion. Chen Ziyun rubbed his nose and hesitated before saying, Of course not. Unless Feng Wu makes a breakthrough too. The others rolled their eyes at him. Chu Chu snapped. Ziyun, stop dreaming. Can you say something about what Feng Wu can actually do? Sun Yu said, That's right. She's only just become a level 1 spiritual king. She's a junior. Chen Ziyun rubbed his nose again. In that case, we can only hope His Royal Highness will give her a hand. The others rolled their eyes once more. That's even more impossible. We might as well hope that Feng Wu can rise to level 2. Chen Ziyun said calmly, Don't worry. It may be a bumpy road, but the outcome will be amazing. Sun Yu said, I don't believe a single word you said. Judging by the energy Sheng Changtian is giving off, once Feng Wu loses, the 4 of us won't stand a chance even if we fight together. The others didn't believe Chen Ziyun either. Chen Ziyun didn't know what to say. What would it take for them to believe that the Crown Prince was on their side? He simply knew too much. Up on the stage, Sheng Changtian opened his eyes. He stared at Feng Wu with a cold smile on his face. If you kneel and apologize, I can give you a chance to surrender, he said arrogantly as he looked down on her, as if she were an ant. Feng Wu was speechless. Sheng Changtian said, Are you not going to do it? Fine. Just remember I gave you a chance, but you threw it away. Feng Wu was speechless. She shook her head and sat down. Everyone stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. They all thought she should surrender. He was a level higher than her. This was an impossible fight. However, why did she sit down? What's she doing? Gongshu Hongzhu finally calmed down from Sheng Changtian's breakthrough and was astonished when he saw Feng Wu sitting down. Jun Linyuan's eyes were twinkling like the night sky. She's making a breakthrough, obviously. He glanced at Gongshu Hongzhu as if the latter were an idiot. Obviously, other people might not think much of his tone, but Feng knew the crown prince too well to miss it. The crown prince couldn't sound any prouder. He seemed to be saying, "You idiots should open your eyes and look carefully. My girl can make a breakthrough at will." Feng shook his head. Despite that satisfied look, the crown prince just wouldn't say those words. A breakthrough? Gongshu Hongzhu felt he had heard the funniest thing in his life. He wanted to guffaw, but realized those words had come from the crown prince, so he forced back his laughter. Ahem! His face went scarlet red. Chapter 2890 Frustrated Zhuoqingwan. Chapter 2890 Frustrated Zhuoqingwan. Gongshu Hongzhu turned to the crown prince and tried to change the subject. Your Royal Highness, isn't Sheng Changtian amazing? He has just become a level 2 spiritual king. However, he didn't get the reaction he wanted. The crown prince said, "Such a good for nothing." Gongshu Hongzhu didn't hear him clearly, so he looked at Jun Linyuan in confusion. But the crown prince had turned away. On stage, Sheng Changtian was staring at Feng Wu in astonishment, because she really was making a breakthrough. She had switched to cultivation mode as soon as she sat down, shutting off all her senses. Sheng Changtian forgot to blink. Breakthrough or not, most people couldn't switch to that mode and start cultivating right away. Sheng Changtian needed to clear his mind, concentrate, and make other moves before he could cultivate. All the students from both schools were amazed by what Feng Wu was doing. A breakthrough? Is Feng Wu making a breakthrough? She just mentioned a breakthrough, and she's doing it now. Is that even possible? However, the familiar rumbling noise forced them to face reality. Amidst the audience, someone had stiffened. It was Zhuoqingwan. She was still a level 1 spiritual king. Although she was at the peak of level 1, it didn't change the fact that she was still at level 1. However, Feng Wu had just reached level 2. For a moment, Zhuoqingwan wanted to stand up and leave. She couldn't accept that fact. She couldn't help but recall her childhood. Feng Wu had been a genius since she was 3 years old, and she could easily defeat anybody at the same cultivation level as her. Besides Feng Lu, Zhuoqingwan had also lived in Feng Wu's shadow. Feng Wu was everything a parent wanted their child to be. Zhuoqingwan, how dumb can you be? Feng Wu has mastered it. Why can't you? Zhuoqingwan, you're such an idiot. Feng Wu can recite it after reading it once. You've read it 3 times, but you still can't read fluently. Zhuoqingwan, you both have the true phoenix blood. Feng Wu is younger than you, but she's already a few levels higher than you. When she was growing up, Zhuoqingwan's parents had told her such things all the time. She could see the disappointment on her grandfather's face. Her parents were displeased, her siblings teased her, and even the servants looked down on her. Back then, Feng Wu was the only sun in the sky. Everybody wanted a daughter like her. The master of Firmament Palace wanted Feng Wu to become her disciple. Back then, Zhuoqingwan racked her brain and set up that trap to destroy Feng Wu. Everything Feng Wu used to have became Zhuoqingwan's. In the last 5 years, she had gotten used to how people treated her. She enjoyed the compliments, the privileges, and the way she treated others. However, Failure Wu the cripple had surpassed her once more. Feng Wu was a level 2 spiritual king. Zhuoqingwan was only a level 1 spiritual king. Zhuoqingwan clenched her fists, and her face went livid. She thought she was going to have a nervous breakdown. Feng Wu, you're dead. Chapter 2891. What was there to say? Chapter 2891. What was there to say? Zhuoqingwan hated Feng Wu to the core. She closed her eyes and told herself that with what she had given Sheng Changtian, he would win. He would kill Feng Wu in front of Jun Linyuan. Meanwhile, Feng Wu opened her eyes. Her eyes were so black that they looked like bottomless pits. When Sheng Changtian met her gaze, he felt panic-stricken. No, don't panic. When 2 capable fighters met, the first who panicked would lose. Sheng Changtian forced himself to calm down and have some faith. Feng Wu smiled a little. Let's begin, Sheng Changtian said. Let's. They charged at each other immediately after that. In an instant, they exchanged hundreds of blows. Sheng Changtian's twisted face looked terrifying. He was giving it all he had. In contrast, Feng Wu was quite at ease. This time Feng Wu had the upper hand. How is this possible? This isn't happening. Sheng Changtian tried to calm down, but it was an impossible task. His opponent was insanely talented. Thump! Their palms met, and they brushed past each other in the air. Feng Wu landed steadily on her feet with a smile on her face. Sheng Changtian flew backward until he fell to the ground with a loud thump. It was such a loud noise. The ground beneath him cracked. Unable to stop himself, Sheng Changtian kept skidding backward. He was about to fall off the stage. The military academy students were torn by anxiety. No! Sheng Changtian, hold on. You can't fall. You're the last player we have. If you lose, we're done for. They shouted at the top of their lungs. They couldn't sit still. Everybody jumped to their feet, and their eyes were bloodshot. They knew how they had humiliated Imperial College the year before. If they lost, the same thing would happen to them. The idea was unbearable. The moment before Sheng Changtian fell off, he finally grabbed the edge of the stage. He raised his head and looked at Feng Wu in the distance. He couldn't hide the fear in his eyes. What on earth was going on? God Mu, are you protecting Feng Wu? Meanwhile, the Imperial College students all had strange looks on their faces. They didn't know what to say. Feng Wu has. And I didn't know she was so awesome. Sun Yu and the other team members realized how little faith they had in Feng Wu. They had been so sure that she would lose. How they wished the ground would crack open under their feet and swallow them up. It was so embarrassing. They were mortified. However, they didn't mind being humiliated in this way. Was she hiding her true strength before? Chu Chu asked weakly. He remembered how he was the one who had greeted Feng Wu when she joined the team. Back then, she had appeared to be on Qiu Ziyu's level. Chen Ziyan shook his head. No, she wasn't. She's just making daily progress, which you can see with your own eyes. She's different from the person that she was yesterday. What else could the others say? Chapter 2892, True Phoenix Blood 1. Chapter 2892, True Phoenix Blood 1. I don't get it. How can Feng Wu make a breakthrough at will? Chu Yin ground her teeth. Jun Linyuan actually knew the answer. Back then, when he tried to protect Feng Wu from the magic soul vine, he had switched souls with her to refine the vine for her. Feng Wu then rose a whole stage. Not one level but one stage. Feng Wu had made breakthroughs at this unbelievable speed since then. Of course, the proud crown prince wouldn't tell anyone else that. Zhuo Qingwan smiled coldly. Feng Wu, do you really think you're going to win? Have you forgotten about my shadow phoenix? All eyes were on Sheng Changtian and Feng Wu. They wanted to know if Sheng Changtian had more cards up his sleeve. Cards? Sheng Changtian wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and lowered his eyes to hide his smirk. When he looked up again, he poured the small bottle of true phoenix blood down his throat. Do you think you'll win? No, Feng Wu, the game has only just begun. Sheng Changtian smeared some blood on his cheeks. It gave him an even more eerie look. Formidable energy rose out of his body. The audience wasn't capable enough to feel it. However, Feng Wu immediately noticed it. True phoenix blood. She had been born with it, so she was familiar with that energy. She smirked when she looked from Sheng Changtian to Zhuo Qingwan in the audience. Sheng Changtian, do you think drinking true phoenix blood will help you win this competition? You're so naive. True phoenix blood? Everybody was watching them. They were all very focused. Therefore, they almost jumped when they heard the name True Phoenix Blood. Zhuo Qingwan's eyes widened. Shit! Feng Wu recognized it. What kind of nose did she have? Sheng Changtian had only taken one sip of True Phoenix Blood, and Feng Wu had picked up the smell. To make matters worse for Zhuo Qingwan, Feng Wu made it known to everybody. Zhuo Qingwan thought, everybody will think I'm helping Sheng Changtian. They will all see me as a traitor. Zhuo Qingwan's expression remained calm, but one could see the anxiety in her eyes. Sheng Changtian, you better keep your mouth shut. All eyes were on Sheng Changtian. Is it really true phoenix blood? I heard that 2 people in the imperial capital have true phoenix blood. No, it used to be 2 people, Feng Wu and Zhuo Qingwan. However, Feng Wu's true phoenix blood was destroyed, and only Zhuo Qingwan has it now. Where did Sheng Changtian get his? Did Zhuo Qingwan give it to him? No, I don't believe it. How else could he have gotten it? Did the military academy get it by force? The audience was intimidated by Zhuo Qingwan's superior status and didn't dare raise their voices. They discussed the matter under their breaths and glanced at Zhuo Qingwan from time to time. On any other day, they wouldn't have cared less whom Zhuo Qingwan gave the true phoenix blood to. But today was a special day. Chapter 2893 True Phoenix Blood 2. Chapter 2893 True Phoenix Blood 2. This was a competition, and if Zhuo Qingwan gave the true phoenix blood to their opponent, she would be a traitor. The student's opinion of Zhuo Qingwan changed. Xiao Ziyu knew where the true phoenix blood had come from, so when he detected tension in the audience, he lowered his head and tried not to be noticed. Meanwhile, Zhuo Qingwan was glaring at Sheng Changtian. If Sheng Changtian dared tell the truth, she would kill him. Sheng Changtian could sense the tension in the crowd and was satisfied to see what was happening to the future wife of the crown prince. He now had something on the lady. Does that mean I can get what I want through Zhuo Qingwan in the future? Sheng Changtian was excited by the thought. Feng Wu didn't miss the changing expressions on his face. She rolled her eyes at him. I'm asking you, where did you get the true phoenix blood? Sheng Changtian smirked. What true phoenix blood? I don't know what you're talking about. Feng Wu said, didn't you just drink it? Sheng Changtian laughed. True phoenix blood? Who told you I drank that? What's the matter with you? I see. Sheng Changtian snorted. You're jealous of the person who owns the true phoenix blood. You're jealous of her talent, beauty, and the person she's engaged to. That's why you're saying I drank the true phoenix blood. You want to ruin her reputation. For someone as pretty as you have such an evil mind. What? Huh? Everybody was listening. Zhuo Qingwan was the only one who had the true phoenix blood now. Was Feng Wu jealous of her? That seemed to make sense. Many people believed what Sheng Changtian said. Only a few people, like Duan Chaoga, Feng Sun and Chen Ziyun, knew the truth. Most people had no idea what happened, so they started giving Feng Wu judgmental looks. Zhuo Qingwan forced herself not to burst out laughing. Sheng Changtian was an excellent partner, and she was very pleased with what he said. Feng Wu, I bet you didn't see this coming. I'd like to see you talk yourself out of this. Zhuo Qingwan thought Feng Wu would become flustered, but she was wrong. Feng Wu still had that calm smile on her face. Not the true phoenix blood, you say? And you didn't get it from Zhuo Qingwan. I'll start collecting evidence then. Feng Wu charged at Sheng Changtian before he had time to react. As a level 1 spiritual king, she had already been a formidable fighter. Having risen to level 2, she was even more capable now. By the time Sheng Changtian realized what Feng Wu was doing, he had already been lifted off the ground. Feng Wu picked him up like he was a chicken. Sheng Changtian was completely baffled. Before he could figure out how to react, Feng Wu started collecting evidence. Chapter 2894 True Phoenix Blood 3. Chapter 2894 True Phoenix Blood 3. She held Sheng Changtian in one hand while her other hand clenched into a fist. She then punched him in the stomach. Her strength was too formidable for words to describe. Boom! Her fist landed in Sheng Changtian's stomach. Time seemed to freeze. Everybody gave Sheng Changtian sympathetic looks. Sheng Changtian immediately knew what it felt like to be punched by Feng Wu. He thought she had punctured his stomach. He instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhuo Qingwan almost jumped to her feet. The blood he spat out was her true phoenix blood. Feng Wu's friends were equally shocked. They heard Feng Wu say she was going to find the evidence, but they never expected her to use such an approach. That was very efficient. Sheng Changtian was too shocked to utter a word. Was Feng Wu even human? They had become level 2 spiritual kings around the same time. He expected them to have similar levels of power. How could she crush him so easily? Are you really a level 2 spiritual king? Sheng Changtian gritted his teeth. Are you sure you're not a level 3 spiritual king? Feng Wu glanced at him. Didn't your work partner tell you? I'm invincible when fighting against people of the same level. She didn't. She only said. Sheng Changtian almost mentioned Zhuo Qingwan's name. He realized his carelessness and stopped talking before he made another mistake. Feng Wu shook her head. She didn't feel sorry for him for long because she had hard evidence now. She turned to Gong Sunmu. I'm asking for a timeout. Please examine this blood. Sheng Changtian was anxious. If that happened. He glanced at Zhuo Qingwan. Zhuo Qingwan wanted to eat him alive. Crossing her arms, Feng Wu looked from Sheng Changtian to Zhuo Qingwan with a smile on her face. She had seen through these two people. Seeing the threatening look in Zhuo Qingwan's eyes, Sheng Changtian immediately objected. I object. He glared at Feng Wu. We're still in a competition. A timeout will disrupt my rhythm. I'll hold you responsible if I lose. Oh, shut up. Shoo. The audience booed and hooted. Sheng Changtian's face darkened. A moment ago, they had still respected and feared him. But now, his image had been destroyed. Gong Sunmu wanted to grant Feng Wu's request, but Chu Yin objected. This is a competition. Don't make it so complicated. Chu Yin snorted. Sheng Changtian is right. If his rhythm is disrupted, who's going to take responsibility? Gong Sunmu said. That's not the case. Sheng Changtian drank true phoenix blood. Chu Yin smirked. True phoenix blood? Who can tell if it's true? Are you taking Feng Wu's word for it? Gong Sunmu frowned. I'm not. And Feng Wu asked for the blood to be examined because she also needs the physical evidence. Of course, Chu Yin knew examining the evidence was the right thing to do, but she wouldn't let that happen. Gong Sunmu was furious. You're an impossible woman. Chu Yin said. What did you just say? Chapter 2895, True Phoenix Blood 4. Chapter 2895, True Phoenix Blood 4. Seeing that an argument was about to break out, Elder Wu frowned. Silence. Both of you. Gong Shu Hongzhu smirked. There's no need to argue. His Royal Highness is right here, and he'll tell us if we should pause the game and examine the evidence. He then turned to Jun Linyuan and said attentively, Your Royal Highness, what do you think? Deep down Gong Shu Hongzhu was very pleased. Why? Jun Linyuan was the Military Academy's honorary president, so it was only natural that he would take the Military Academy's side. Moreover, Zhuo Qingwan was said to be his fiancée. He would protect her and choose not to examine the evidence. The Imperial College would never get what it wanted. Gong Shu Hongzhu glanced at Chu Yin. Chu Yin realized the connection as well. Yes, Zhuo Qingwan wasn't someone Feng Wu could slander. At that thought, she gave Gong Sunmu an arrogant look, pleased with having chosen the right side. All eyes were on Jun Linyuan. Jun Linyuan didn't say anything. He was annoyed. How blind was Gong Shu Hongzhu? He actually thought the Crown Prince would help Zhuo Qingyan. Your Royal Highness? Gong Shu Hongzhu fought back his smile and reminded the Crown Prince in a low voice. The Crown Prince said, Get to the bottom of it. What? That command was so unexpected that Gong Shu Hongzhu almost banged his forehead on the table. He stared at Jun Linyuan in disbelief. Many other people did the same. In the end, somebody said, His Royal Highness is so unbiased, even when his beloved fiancée is involved. The others agreed with him. Yes, he was such a just ruler. One couldn't wish more for a future emperor. Good. Do it. Find out the truth. Such a wise decision. Everybody applauded and cheered, feeling proud to have such a crown prince. Feng Sun and Chaoge looked at each other. Chaoge said, Why are they so surprised? Of course His Royal Highness will support Xiao Wu. Yi Han rested her hands on her waist and glared at Chaoga. How can you say that? His Royal Highness isn't a superficial person. Chaoga was speechless. Of course he was. He hid outside Xiao Wu's window in the middle of the night. Meanwhile, Gong Sunmu already got to work. He smiled at Chu Yin. Would you like to join me? In case you decide Imperial College has cheated when the result comes out. Chu Yin smirked. Of course not. I don't want to get my hands dirty. Either way, she would insist that the evidence wasn't to be trusted. Just then, they heard a trustworthy voice behind them. Your Royal Highness, may I join them? It was none other than Feng himself. Chu Yin stared at Feng in disbelief. Feng was such a proud man. And he never took orders from anyone but the Crown Prince. However, he had just offered to help. Why was he so nice to Feng Wu? He wasn't her steward. Zhuo Qinghuan's pupils contracted, and a chill ran down her spine. She gave Feng a warning look. Feng didn't even glance at her. Zhuo Qinghuan didn't know what to say. She was so angry. Chapter 2896 Shadow Phoenix 1. Chapter 2896 Shadow Phoenix 1. Since Feng had joined the team, Gong Sunmu could only work as his assistant. With Feng here, the military academy wouldn't dare make any false accusations. If they refused to believe the evidence, the Crown Prince would teach them a lesson. After Feng went off to examine the evidence, Feng Wu saw that Sheng Changtian's face had turned livid. She grinned. Shall we continue? Sheng Changtian was listening to Zhuo Qinghuan's warning in his head. Zhuo Qinghuan was panic-stricken. She could find an excuse for the true phoenix blood and talk herself out of it. However, things wouldn't be so easy if Feng Wu recognized the Shadow Phoenix. She then realized in frustration that she had used the Shadow Phoenix in the secret essence mine before. It had caused the collapse of the mine. Elder Wu had also been there. If Sheng Changtian activated it later, and people made the connection between the Shadow Phoenix and her true phoenix blood, the thought almost gave her a heart attack. Therefore, she gave Sheng Changtian a warning look. Don't activate the Shadow Phoenix. Don't use it. Sheng Changtian knew what Zhuo Qinghuan was saying, but he wasn't going to take orders from her. Zhuo Qinghuan didn't care if the military academy lost, but Sheng Changtian did. Therefore, he grinned at Feng Wu. Bring it on. Zhuo Qinghuan wished she could run up to the stage and throttle Sheng Changtian right now. Damn it. The battle resumed. Terrifying energy filled the air. Feng Wu didn't give Sheng Changtian any chance. She believed battles should be finished as soon as possible. Thump, thump, thump. They exchanged rapid blows in midair. Feng Wu had the upper hand. Sheng Changtian was struck several times in the chest and kept falling back until he was at the edge of the stage. At that critical moment, he finally used the last card up his sleeve. The Phoenix Jade Pendant. Zhuo Qinghuan lost her last bit of hope. Would she sit around passively on her end? Of course not. She was going to shoot a concealed weapon toward the stage. She wanted to kill Sheng Changtian with it and blame it on Feng Wu. After that, the military academy would aim all its rage at her. Feng Wu would never be able to rid herself of that stain. The best way to cover up something was to create something even louder. Zhuo Qinghuan wanted to save herself by killing Sheng Changtian. However, she was too naive. As soon as she flipped her hand, she felt a pair of eyes on her. She looked in that direction and met Jun Lingyuan's eyes. They looked like bottomless pits. She couldn't tell what he was thinking. There was no warmth in those eyes. The man was ruthless. She felt as though a sharp blade had cut her in half. Those eyes. Zhuo Qinghuan panicked. At that moment, Sheng Changtian finally turned to his last resort. He dropped the last drop of true phoenix blood onto the pendant before grinning at Feng Wu. Inside the pendant, a phoenix woke up. The grumpy bird didn't like waking up. Somebody had woken it up from a deep sleep, and it was annoyed. Roar! The phoenix rose from the pendant and hovered around Sheng Changtian's head. Fire burned in its eyes. It wasn't an ordinary fire. That magical fire could burn a person to ash. Chapter 2897, Shadow Phoenix 2. Chapter 2897, Shadow Phoenix 2. Sheng Changtian was pleased. Zhuo Qingwan's face went ghastly pale. If the crown prince looked into it, he would definitely find out she was behind this. However, she also had a crazy thought. What if Sheng Changtian was right, and he could kill Feng Wu today? If Feng Wu died, would the crown prince still come after her? She would become the only owner of the true phoenix blood, and the royal family would definitely want her as a member. Zhuo Qingwan was both worried and filled with anticipation. The only thing she wanted to see now was Sheng Changtian killing Feng Wu. Everybody quieted down when the shadow phoenix appeared. It was a terrifying being. Its body was covered in dancing flames. Each feather was a cluster of flames. Flames came out of its eyes and its claws. From afar, it was a big ball of fire. Roar! The shadow phoenix bellowed. It wanted to lash out in frustration. No one would be in a good mood when they were woken up from a sound sleep. The shadow phoenix spat out a ball of fire, which was aimed at the audience. The speed was incredible, and so was the damage it could cause. The audience could feel the incredible heat long before the fire reached them. Whoosh! Elder Wu immediately created a shield in front of the audience. However, even that couldn't stop the fire. The shield was shattered in a matter of seconds. In the end, it was Feng who saved the day. Phew! Everybody let out breaths of relief. That had been so close. Who would have thought that they would almost lose their lives by watching a game? The people in the front rows had been so close to getting burnt, but those at the back didn't feel much better. They had almost died as well. No one made a sound. That shadow phoenix was terrifying. What kind of power did it have? It could kill someone by breathing on them. Everyone looked at Feng Wu. If the shadow phoenix could kill everyone in the audience by breathing, what should Feng Wu do? Sun Yu and the others lost all hope. That's so scary. Chu Chu sucked in his breath. Sun Yu patted his chest. I'm still shaking. Chu Chu said, this is an impossible battle. Sun Yu nodded. The battles so far all happened between cultivators of similar levels. Although Xiao Wu is a little bit better, it was still within acceptable range. But this bird isn't in that range. Where did it come from? The others all shook their heads. Elder Wu turned pale. He had seen it before. It had been in the secret essence mine. That shadow phoenix had chased them. It was that bird. Elder Wu bellowed. The military academy destroyed the secret essence mine. Gongshu Hongzhu was perplexed. I don't know what you're talking about. Elder Wu was already sending out messages. The military academy would pay for what they did. Meanwhile, Sheng Changtian was looking at Feng Wu with a ferocious grin on his face. Chapter 2898, Shadow Phoenix 3. Chapter 2898, Shadow Phoenix 3. Sheng Changtian said, Feng Wu, do you see how fierce I am now? Feng Wu only smirked. Someone in the dynasty team shouted anxiously, Feng Wu, just give up. It was Sun Yu. Chu Chu said, yes, just give up. We can't defeat that thing. Just surrender. The other team members all said, yes, please do. You've already done an amazing job. No one will blame you, and no one will think you lost the battle. Chen Ziyan said earnestly, Feng Wu, this isn't your battle anymore. Just come back. It wasn't Feng Wu's fault. Their opponent had something so terrifying that it was beyond their imagination. Even Elder Wu's shield couldn't stop the shadow phoenix. Feng Wu should come back before she lost her life. Although the Imperial College students felt frustrated, they still asked Feng Wu to give up and to come back. Feng Wu turned around to look at her teammates and fellow students from Imperial College. They were all very lovely people. However, not her battle. Feng Wu didn't believe that. Her eyes met Zhuo Qingwan's, and Zhuo Qingwan gloated. Feng Wu suddenly smiled too. Her smile was as bright as the sun. Zhuo Qingwan's stomach lurched. Why did it feel like Feng Wu still had more tricks to play? No, that wasn't possible. What more could she possibly know? Zhuo Qingwan involuntarily turned to Jun Linyuan and wondered how he would react. It was incredible. The crown prince rose to his feet. Zhuo Qingwan turned pale, and began to panic. Was His Royal Highness going to protect Feng Wu? Did he have feelings for her? No, that couldn't be happening. The Crown Prince was about to walk to Feng Wu when she beamed at the Shadow Phoenix. Why did she do that? Sheng Changtian snorted. She wouldn't be smiling for much longer. Shadow Phoenix, kill Feng Wu. The Shadow Phoenix was furious. How dare a human being order it around? Just then, Feng Wu smiled and waved at the Shadow Phoenix. Shadow Phoenix, come to me. Nobody understood what she was doing. Even the Crown Prince paused and looked at her in bewilderment. Feng was also surprised. She shouldn't underestimate that bird. Sheng Changtian laughed so hard that he was in tears. Do you think you own this Shadow Phoenix? How dare you order it around like it's a pet? Feng Wu, how stupid are you? Feng Wu ignored Sheng Changtian and only smiled at the Shadow Phoenix. Are you sure you don't want to come here and drink my blood? She took out a dagger and sliced it across her palm. Blood oozed out. The Crown Prince's pupils contracted. If he didn't have great self-control, he would have torn the stage apart. Sheng Changtian smirked. Your blood? Do you really think your blood is more precious than the true phoenix blood? Everybody started talking. True phoenix blood? Chapter 2899, Shadow Phoenix 4. Chapter 2899, Shadow Phoenix 4. Is it really true phoenix blood? So, Sheng Changtian got his hands on some true phoenix blood. Most people had been so focused on the Shadow Phoenix that they forgot about the true phoenix blood. Feng Wu grinned at Sheng Changtian. Are you sure there's no blood rarer than the true phoenix blood? Sheng Changtian said arrogantly. Is there? Everybody thought the same. Was there? Zhuo Qingwan's stomach lurched. She had a very bad feeling. Had Feng Wu recovered her true phoenix blood? No, that couldn't happen. That wasn't possible. She had personally destroyed Feng Wu's true phoenix blood. Why did she feel so nervous? She felt like a giant hand was gripping her heart. It was beating so fast, like it would jump out of her mouth. Yes, there is. Feng Wu beamed at Sheng Changtian, looking as pretty as a picture. Sheng Changtian didn't believe her. However, the Shadow Phoenix did. It didn't believe what Feng Wu said, but it trusted its nose. The bird identified with Feng Wu's blood, as if it belonged there. That was something that had been branded in its name. The Shadow Phoenix had tasted Feng Wu's blood once, and could never forget that taste. Hence, it flew toward Feng Wu. Watch out! Feng Wu, come back! Feng Wu, run! The people who didn't know what was happening shouted at Feng Wu, telling her to run. Those who knew what was happening watched Feng Wu in amazement. The Shadow Phoenix wasn't big. It was about the size of an adult. It hovered in the air in front of Feng Wu, and stared at her with its cold eyes. It didn't trust Feng Wu completely. Feng Wu hadn't been the first person it saw when it woke up. Someone had put a spell on the bird. When it was activated by the true phoenix blood, it would pledge loyalty to the first person it saw. It didn't like that hypocritical girl, but it still fought for her. The Shadow Phoenix stared grimly at Feng Wu, while Feng Wu smiled at it and waved her left hand. There! Fresh blood was dripping. The smell was so alluring that the Shadow Phoenix couldn't control itself anymore. It tried to fight back the longing in its head. The smell was so attractive. The Shadow Phoenix couldn't hold on for much longer. Zhuo Qingwan was really panicking now. Back! She glared at the Shadow Phoenix. Go back to the pendant. Everybody looked at her. Why did she jump out? Feng Sun asked loudly. Zhuo Qingwan, why are you giving the Shadow Phoenix orders? Do you have something to do with it? Did she have something to do with it? Of course she did. Would she admit it here? Definitely not. Zhuo Qingwan gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. Why was everybody against her? Why were they all on Feng Wu's side? Zhuo Qingwan wouldn't accept that. However, given the circumstances, she could only sit back down. The Shadow Phoenix felt conflicted. Should it drink the blood? It couldn't decide. It suddenly had an idea. Chapter 2900, Divine Phoenix Blood 1. Chapter 2900, Divine Phoenix Blood 1. Why should I feel conflicted? That blood is obviously better. I'm not switching masters. Why should I overthink it? No, I can't do that. I've drunk this girl's blood before, which means I've already betrayed my master once. I can't drink it again. The Shadow Phoenix turned its head away. Zhuqing Wan was relieved. At the end of the day, the Shadow Phoenix still followed her orders. Why does that yummy smell keep floating my way? The Shadow Phoenix was frustrated. Sheng Changtian also opened his palm. He still had a little true phoenix blood that Zhuqing Wan had given to him. He said, "Come here. I have some true phoenix blood." The audience watched with curiosity. The competition had somehow become a game of wooing a pet, but no one cared about that. They only wanted to know how the Shadow Phoenix would choose. Hearing what Sheng Changtian said, the Shadow Phoenix turned its head and rolled its eyes at him. That was a look of disdain. Disdain. No one expected to see such a look. That was the true phoenix blood. Is it me, or does the Shadow Phoenix actually look disgusted? Yihan asked Chaoga. She hadn't believed Chaoga before, but Chaoga had been right every single time. Yihan still wouldn't openly agree with Chaoga, but she couldn't help but look to Chaoga for answers. Chaoga said grumpily, "I thought you didn't believe me. Why are you asking?" Yihan pouted. "It's just a random question. Do you really think I'm asking for your opinion?" Chaoga was speechless. Yihan asked curiously, "So is Feng Wu's blood more precious than Zhuqing Wan's?" Chaoga said, "Of course." Yihan said, "I don't believe you." Chaoga was speechless. The rest of the audience was also excited and intrigued. This proved that the blood which Sheng Changtian had was Zhuqing Wan's true phoenix blood. How would the Shadow Phoenix choose? This was so exciting. At the center of attention, the Shadow Phoenix felt agitated. Zhuqing Wan gave it a warning look. The Shadow Phoenix was angry at both Zhuqing Wan and itself. Why is my master so weak? Her blood used to be acceptable, but why do I feel so attracted to better blood? Is this an immoral thing to do? I don't know what to do. This is so hard. The next second, the conflicted Shadow Phoenix licked the blood on Feng Wu's palm. All eyes were on the Shadow Phoenix. It raised its head and closed its eyes to savor it. It was so delicious. The crowd was speechless. Zhuqing Wan felt like she had just been slapped. Sheng Changtian was shaken to the core. He looked at his palm. There was still some blood there, but he looked at Zhuqing Wan and saw the mixture of rage, bewilderment, and astonishment on her face. Sheng Changtian was dumbfounded. He still didn't know what was happening. Chapter 2901, Divine Phoenix Blood 2. Chapter 2901, Divine Phoenix Blood 2. He involuntarily looked at the Shadow Phoenix. There was no doubt that the bird enjoyed the taste of Feng Wu's blood. He had a bad feeling. If the Shadow Phoenix liked Feng Wu's blood that much, it was very possible that he couldn't control it with Zhuqing Wan's true phoenix blood anymore. Therefore he took out the pendant. It had been smeared with the true phoenix blood, so he whispered at the Shadow Phoenix, "Come back. Come back." The Shadow Phoenix rolled its eyes at Sheng Changtian again. Feng Wu grinned at the Shadow Phoenix. "Do you want to come with me?" She was luring the Shadow Phoenix to her side. "Feng Wu, how dare you?" Zhuqing Wan ground her teeth. She hadn't been so sure before, but she was certain now. Feng Wu had indeed recovered her true phoenix blood, and it might even have been upgraded. Otherwise, the Shadow Phoenix wouldn't betray her. The Shadow Phoenix stared at Feng Wu and hesitated. Its instinct told it to follow its heart, and to go with the person with better blood. However, the Shadow Phoenix glared at Zhuqing Wan. "Why don't you have divine phoenix blood?" It then went back into the pendant. It used the common language, so everybody heard those words. They also saw how much the bird disliked Zhuqing Wan. Divine phoenix blood? Did I hear that correctly? Why don't you have divine phoenix blood? So the person who has it is. All eyes were on Feng Wu. Everyone had curious and shocked expressions. The audience, the team members, and even the referees were astonished. Feng was amazed too. Divine phoenix blood. The one and only divine phoenix blood. One might find the true phoenix blood in another country, but not the divine phoenix blood. The divine phoenix blood was so important. Your Royal Highness, you have to marry her. Feng looked at Jun Linyuan. That news would excite many people. All young talented men would want to marry her. Zhuo Qinghuan's true phoenix blood was nothing in comparison. Sensing Feng's excitement, the crown prince raised his chin and gloated. My girl. Mine. Feng rolled his eyes. When are you going to tell her then? The crown prince looked away. At the same time, Sheng Changtian finally realized what had happened and pointed at Feng Wu. You. His hand was trembling. Feng Wu asked, me what? You really have divine phoenix blood? Feng Wu said, I guess so. Sheng Changtian said, don't you know for sure? Feng Wu said, how? Who can verify it? That was true. She was the only person who had divine phoenix blood. Who else could verify it for her? However, I think you have it. Sheng Changtian stared at her. Chapter 2902, Divine Phoenix Blood 3. Chapter 2902, Divine Phoenix Blood 3. That was the only reason the Shadow Phoenix would abandon the true Phoenix blood for Feng Wu's blood. Your blood is more precious than true Phoenix blood, Sheng Changtian added. Feng Wu said, are you sure you want to say that? Miss Zhuo will cry. Sheng Changtian looked at the audience and saw Zhuo Qinghuan's livid face. He finally recovered from his initial shock. Then he realized something more serious. He and Feng Wu were in the middle of a battle. Feng Wu smiled at him. Shall we continue? Continue. Without the Shadow Phoenix, Sheng Changtian didn't stand a chance. He had taken enough of a beating from Feng Wu. He looked at his own team and had a bitter taste in his mouth. Why did he have to be the last player? Why did he have to take responsibility? The military academy students looked at him with conflicted feelings. Sheng Changtian looked at them again, but no one made a sound. He then turned to the referees. He didn't dare look at the crown prince because he felt so ashamed. If he had defeated Feng Wu, he would have run up to his Royal Highness to wait for some compliments. But now he felt he had disappointed the crown prince. Both Chu Yin and Gongshu Hongzhu sat there with livid faces. They didn't take the defeat well. Finally, Sheng Changtian turned to Feng Wu. Taking a deep breath, he said, I know I'm not as capable as you, but I may still have a chance. Bring it on. The next second, Feng Wu moved. No one knew how, but she did move. Why were they so sure? Sheng Changtian was in the air already. Feng Wu had kicked him in the stomach. He looked like he was folded in half when he flew backward and landed with a loud thump. Everyone was dumbfounded. Feng Wu was such a legend. In her airy red dress, she looked as pretty as a picture. Sheng Changtian lay there for a long while, and Feng Wu smiled. She said, I was born to be brilliant. Everybody was amazed by her casual tone. Sheng Changtian didn't know what to say. Feng Wu looked just as brilliant as the sun. She would shine even if some people didn't want to see her. Feng Sun was the first to stand up and start clapping. The applause sounded like a tidal wave. The Imperial College students copied Feng Wu and shouted at the military academy. We were born to be brilliant. Feng Wu was their son. Jun Linyuan felt happier than if he had won a battle himself. He couldn't stop smiling. He was so proud of her. Gongshu Hongzhu apologized. Your Royal Highness, we lost the competition. We've let you down, so please punish us. Chapter 2903 Wrap-Up. Chapter 2903 Wrap-Up. Gongshu Hongzhu apologized. Your Royal Highness, we lost the competition. We've let you down, so please punish us. Jun Linyuan raised his head. This was the first time that he met Gongshu Hongzhu's eyes. He frowned and seemed bewildered. What did he have to do with this? Gongshu Hongzhu was in tears. Your Royal Highness, we've lost the competition. Please punish us however you see fit. The crown prince patted him on the shoulder. No, you did a great job. Gongshu Hongzhu felt so touched. They had let His Royal Highness down. But His Royal Highness had comforted him. He wasn't as cold as other people claimed that he was. I'm his biggest fan. After sending Gongshu Hongzhu away, Jun Linyuan turned his gaze on Feng Wu again. He rubbed his chin and couldn't stop smiling. His girl was awesome. That little speech she gave in the arena was amazing. The Crown Prince's eyes twinkled as he let his imagination run wild. When Feng Wu turned around to receive the audience's cheers, she looked stunning. The most beautiful girl was right there on the stage. A girl wasn't of much use if she only had a pretty face. If a girl was talented, she would be considered an expert cultivator. What if someone was both beautiful and talented? How should she be described? Feng Sun couldn't think of any words either. He just clapped his hands and cheered loudly while he showed off his sister. The ordinary students around him rarely had a chance to talk to a young lord, and they were thrilled. She really is my sister. We're very tight. He showed off his sister to every student nearby, even those sitting behind him. Feng Wu looked at Gong Sunmu. Only then did Gong Sunmu realize what had happened. Gosh, they had won the competition. Feeling relieved, he turned to Jun Linyuan. Your Royal Highness. However, His Royal Highness was still lost in his girl's beauty. Your Royal Highness? Gong Sunmu had never seen Jun Linyuan like this before. The Crown Prince wasn't pleased when he was disturbed. Gong Sunmu immediately said, Your Royal Highness, all 5 games are over. Shall we announce the final result? Jun Linyuan looked toward the stage. The pretty girl was looking at him. Well, he immediately put on a serious face. Gongshu Hongzhu thought, His Royal Highness is on our side. I'm sure he'll just say the competition is over and let everybody go home. Of course, the Crown Prince wouldn't deprive his girl of her glory. He rose to his feet and walked toward the stage. What? Gongshu Hongzhu was dumbfounded. He didn't understand why the Crown Prince couldn't make the announcement from his seat. Chapter 2904. We're the champions. Chapter 2904. We're the champions. Feng Wu was intrigued when Jun Linyuan headed for the stage. What was he doing? When she looked at Jun Linyuan in confusion, the Crown Prince felt rather shy. He raised his chin and wouldn't meet Feng Wu's eyes. He liked her, but he wasn't going to let her see it. Those who had a secret crush on someone would understand, but not Feng Wu. She sighed inwardly when she saw his expression. She thought, He's not going to give me trouble again, is he? Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu stood side by side. They looked as pretty as a picture from all angles. Their heights matched well. They were equally beautiful and elegant. Neither would be able to find anyone else that could match their beauty. They belonged to each other. There was no other choice. Their beauty took everybody's breaths away. They look so. They have to be a couple. I won't accept anything else. That's right. We're ready for a beautiful love story. The audience was already making up stories for Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan, and choosing names for their babies. They had forgotten that this was still a competition. The award was supposed to be handed out. Feng Wu frowned a little. What were these people talking about? Didn't they know what Jun Linyuan was like? If they didn't stop now, Jun Linyuan would destroy everything on the stage. She wasn't alone in her thoughts. Gongshu Hongzhu and Chuyan felt the same way. So did Sheng Changtian and his teammates. They felt no one could defile the Crown Prince like this, and was sure he was going to be furious. Hadn't Feng Wu enjoyed enough of her 5 minutes of glory? Those people couldn't wait to see the Crown Prince lose his temper. With the Crown Prince's sharp ears, he could obviously hear all the discussion. However, he just stood there and let people talk without saying anything to Feng Wu. Only Feng knew what he was thinking, but there was nothing the old man could do. How frustrating. Feng Wu felt rather embarrassed. So she urged Jun Linyuan, Your Royal Highness? Your Royal Highness? Shouldn't you announce the result now? Why was he just standing there? Jun Linyuan glanced at Feng Wu and didn't seem too pleased. Feng Wu wondered what she had done. The Crown Prince rolled his eyes, but he had to announce the result. Dynasty team has won the competition. Wow! Finally! The Dynasty team members were over the moon. They jumped and cheered in excitement, and many people even burst into tears. They had waited for this victory for too long. They looked at one another in disbelief. Their team had won, but they hadn't fought a single battle themselves. We won! We won! Feng Wu made it possible. She defeated all 5 opponents. Their happy voices filled the air. Chapter 2905. Aren't you a know-it-all? Chapter 2905. Aren't you a know-it-all? The Crown Prince seemed more relaxed when he saw how thrilled the students were. When they were done celebrating, Jun Linyuan cleared his throat. Immediately, everybody quieted down. The teenagers that had been screaming and crying at the top of their lungs returned to their seats and sat down properly, waiting for the Crown Prince's instruction. Ahem! Jun Linyuan turned around to face Feng Wu. Standing together, they looked as pretty as a picture. Many girls almost couldn't control their impulse to scream. Feng urged the Crown Prince in his head. Just say it. Jun Linyuan didn't say a word. Feng almost couldn't stand it anymore. Feng Wu looked curiously at Jun Linyuan. Well, Jun Linyuan said, you've been working hard for the past 5 years, and today is the day you shine. You did a great job, Feng Wu. He then patted her on the shoulder as if he was her senior. Feng Wu said, why are you so serious all of a sudden? It made her want to blush. Feng was almost in tears. Your Royal Highness, do you want to get married and have babies? Stop stalling. I'm not being snobbish, but she has the divine phoenix blood. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu thinking be grateful. So many people can't even get me to look at them. You should be celebrating now. Feng Wu was speechless. She saw that Jun Linyuan was getting at something, but he wouldn't get to the point. So she asked directly, do you have something to say to me? The Crown Prince froze like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, and his earlobes turned pink. Feng Wu said, well, she wondered if the Crown Prince was in love with her and wanted to tell her that. Was her battle so amazing that even Jun Linyuan was impressed? Feng Wu said, are you in love? In your dreams? Jun Linyuan rapped her forehead with his knuckle. He was so exasperated that he used a little too much force, and Feng Wu was almost in tears. Feng Wu was speechless. She decided she had the wrong idea. Obviously, the Crown Prince would never be in love with her. She dismissed the idea in her head. However, she didn't think Jun Linyuan would be dumb enough to fall for Zhuqingwan. Wait, Zhuqingwan, the true phoenix blood. Feng Wu looked in Zhuqingwan's direction, and her pupils contracted. Where's Zhuqingwan? Feng Wu turned to Jun Linyuan and asked in an interrogative tone. She has to pay for what she did to me. Where is she? When Jun Linyuan showed up, Feng Wu couldn't help but look at him. He was like the sun. When he was around, everything else disappeared. Jun Linyuan shook his head innocently. How would he know where Zhuqingwan was? That woman didn't deserve his attention at all. Feng Wu stomped her foot. I wouldn't be so angry if she only lent her true phoenix blood to Sheng Changtian, but we saw that shadow phoenix in the secret essence mine earlier. If that shadow phoenix has something to do with the collapse, so does Zhuqingwan. She glared at Jun Linyuan. You're the chief referee. Why didn't you keep an eye on her? How could you let her escape? Aren't you supposed to be a know-it-all? SSSS. Chapter 2906, My Eyes Were on You. Chapter 2906, My Eyes Were on You. So many people were watching them. There were the referees, and the students and teachers from both schools. They were shocked when they heard what Feng Wu said. They knew Zhuqingwan had been working with Sheng Changtian, but could she have something to do with the collapsed secret essence mine? They had yet to recover from the shock when they heard Feng Wu interrogate the Crown Prince. They thought their hearts had stopped. Interrogate the Crown Prince? Had Feng Wu lost her mind? Did she forget who she was after winning the competition? Didn't she know who she was talking to? How could she scold His Royal Highness? He was like God. The Crown Prince lost his temper when he heard what Feng Wu said. Feng Wu rested her hands on her waist and shouted, Answer me. How could you let Zhuqingwan escape? Why didn't you keep an eye on her? Jun Linyuan said angrily, I was too busy watching you. Feng Wu said, Why did you look at me? Jun Linyuan bellowed, You're so pretty. Where else am I supposed to look? Feng Wu took a deep breath and was about to shout back when she realized something. Why was everybody so quiet? She looked around. The referees, members of the two teams, and the audience were all watching them in astonishment. These people were so blown away that they didn't know where they were. They were in a trance-like state. Feng Wu finally realized what she and Jun Linyuan had blurted out. Feng Wu said, "Well, was it too late to explain now?" Feng Wu turned to Jun Linyuan for help. The Crown Prince also realized what he had done. Jun Linyuan didn't say anything, but his ears had turned pink. Feng Wu said, "Well, don't worry about it. Zhuo Qingwan couldn't have gone very far. She has to be in the city, right?" She tried to resolve the embarrassing situation. However, the Crown Prince only gave her a dirty look and walked off the stage. Feng Wu said, "Wait, Your Royal Highness, Your Royal Highness." What would other people say about her now? She wanted to stop the Crown Prince, but Jun Linyuan walked so fast that he was soon out of sight. Feng wanted to cry. He prayed in his head, hoping the silly young couple would be struck by lightning. With Jun Linyuan gone, Feng Sun couldn't stay either. Although he knew Boss Jun had only just bickered with Feng Wu and wasn't really mad, Boss Jun, he and Xianni usually went everywhere together, so they couldn't let Jun Linyuan leave on his own. Feng Wu and Xianni waved at Feng Wu and followed the Crown Prince out. Feng Wu was speechless. What else could she say? She couldn't understand why the decisive Crown Prince could be so childishly grumpy. Actually, it wasn't a surprise. Things had always been like this. Gosh. Chapter 2907, Show Off 1. Chapter 2907, Show Off 1. Feng Wu was dumbfounded. She had no idea how long Jun Linyuan would stay angry. Gongshu Hongzhu and Chuyan also left after that. Sheng Changtian and his team members followed suit. They didn't want to get caught, because it would be so embarrassing. However, their escape plan failed. Students of Imperial College stopped them at the gate. "You can't leave yet." Chen Ziyan led the others and blocked the way. The people behind him still looked dazed, because of the astonishing conversation they had just heard. "We lost the competition. What more do you want?" Sheng Changtian bellowed. He was so frustrated. Not only did his team lose the competition, his teammates were all badly wounded. Imperial College had won, and their players didn't have a scratch on them. "Nothing. We just want to show you to our principal's office. We need to talk about what happened today." Chen Ziyan chuckled. He knew Zhuo Qingwan wouldn't get away. The Crown Prince was very angry now and would need to vent that anger somewhere. Sheng Changtian and his team didn't want to go to the principal's office, but the teachers and students of Imperial College didn't give them any choice. Students of the military academy didn't know what to think of Feng Wu. When the Crown Prince went up the stage, they wanted to accuse Feng Wu of stealing the spotlight. When Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu stood together, they thought Feng Wu was the evil woman who wanted to seduce the Crown Prince. However, when they saw their interactions on stage, those who had been in a relationship before immediately saw what was going on. Even those who had never had a boyfriend or girlfriend were impressed. Only a blind man wouldn't be able to see what was happening. Students of the military academy hated Feng Wu, but they knew the Crown Prince was in love with her, so they didn't dare offend her. However, they couldn't bring themselves to fawn on her either. How annoying! Out of sight, out of mind. The military academy students ran off as fast as they could. Chen Ziyan didn't try to stop them. He enjoyed seeing how defeated these people looked. It was a hilarious contrast to their arrogant demeanor last year. The Imperial College students considered Feng Wu the brightest star in the school. "She's from our school. She's an Imperial College student. I feel so proud to be in the same school as her. She was in Class E when she first came here, and that was only a few months before." They kept looking back at Feng Wu when they left, because they didn't want to part from such beauty. Yihan was in a daze. She had been defeated multiple times. However, she had only lost to Feng Wu in terms of cultivation achievements until now, which was why she could still fight back before. What she had just witnessed shattered all her hopes. She felt she didn't deserve to be Feng Wu's opponent. Everything she had done so far seemed so childish and ridiculous. Chapter 2908, Show Off 2. Chapter 2908, Show Off 2. If Shan Jingfei saw this. Better that she didn't. If she did, she would probably lose all hope, thought Yihan. Chaoga was so happy as she led the other girls toward Feng Wu. Let's go. She tugged at Yihan's sleeve. Yihan usually would be the first to criticize Feng Wu, but she had the highest respect for that girl now. She walked a few steps behind Duan Chaoga and watched Chaoga hug Feng Wu. Feeling so inferior, she didn't dare move closer. Feng Wu looked at her in bewilderment. Why did Yihan look so humble? Yihan, what's the matter? Feng Wu asked. Do you not feel well? Yihan was almost in tears. She was horrible to Feng Wu, but Feng Wu didn't hold any grudge against her. Feng Wu had such a superior status, but she still treated everybody like her equal. Yihan decided Feng Wu, instead of Zhuo Qingwan, was the one she should support. Feng Wu, I'm on your side. Yihan waved at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was confused. What? Yihan said. I'll place my bet on you and His Royal Highness. Please kick Zhuo Qingwan's ass. Feng Wu's mouth fell open. Before she could say anything, Yihan blushed and ran off, feeling so embarrassed for having expressed her admiration for her idol. Feng Wu said, Hey, stop. But Yihan had already run out of sight. Feng Wu was speechless. She tried to explain to the others. There's nothing between Jun Linyuan and me. Please believe me. Chen Ziyan patted her on the shoulder. Xiao Wu, don't. You'll only sound like you're trying to cover something up. Sun Yu said, Xiao Wu, we'll think you're making up stories. Chu Chu said, Xiao Wu, please go on. We don't mind your stories. Feng Wu was speechless. Although she was secretly pleased to be associated with Jun Linyuan, she would insist that she only had the tiniest bit of feeling for him. It was so complicated that she would rather throw some punches. She still had to take revenge. She didn't have time for puppy love. Her mission was to revive her beautiful master. Feng Wu said, I don't care what you say. I'm not going to admit it. Not everybody was happy after the competition. Imperial College won a generous award, and Military Academy almost lost everything. The Military Academy wanted to keep it a secret, but Imperial College wouldn't let that happen. Therefore, they started telling everybody about it. They even spread the news inside Military Academy and to people outside the campus. The news wouldn't have spread so fast if it was only a battle between the two schools. However, the Divine Phoenix blood was involved. What an exciting piece of news! Before long, all the major families heard about Feng Wu's Divine Phoenix blood. The Imperial Palace was no exception. Who were the main players in the empire? There were 9 families, 4 forces and 2 schools. As soon as they learned the news, they were all blown away. Chapter 2909, Show Off 3. Chapter 2909, Show Off 3. The 9 families were the families of Gongshu, Degu Zuofang Longhua, Gongsun Xinyuan and Tao. Feng Wu had dealt with most of them. Some were her friends, and some were her enemies. The 4 forces were Firmament Palace, the Sumeru Temple, the Shadowless Sect, and the Beggars Gang. They each had their own territory in the empire, but they all had a branch in the imperial capital. When the news spread in the capital city, it was soon delivered to the other corners of the empire, as if it had grown wings. The common folk were only amazed at the existence of the Divine Phoenix blood, and they went about their own business after that. That wasn't the case with the major families and forces. They were influential players for a reason. Most of their backgrounds went back thousands of years. Their favorite thing was to keep valuable information to themselves and only share it within their inner circles. The Divine Phoenix blood was one such example. The common folk were just amazed for a while, but the major forces knew something scarier. Back then, the ruler of the continent was the Honorable Master Mu. He had the Divine Phoenix blood. They had just found out that Feng Wu had the same bloodline, That meant Feng Wu would have an unbelievable future. Even if she didn't achieve great things, her offspring would be more than likely to have the bloodline. Holy crap! Who wouldn't want to marry such a girl? There was no question about that. No matter what kind of grudge a force might have held against Feng Wu before, their first reaction now was to send her a marriage proposal. Feng Wu had no idea of her impact on most of the influential forces in the empire. She also had no idea that people all over the empire were going to send her the most valuable gifts to win her heart. They didn't believe she was engaged to the crown prince, because if that were the case, the crown prince would have announced it already. Moreover, wasn't Zhuo Qingwan the crown prince's fiancé? Either way, they would send Feng Wu proposal gifts first. No force wanted to be left behind. Feng Wu didn't know anything about that. Because of her great contribution, Imperial College gave her a week off, so that she could go home and take a break. Gong Sunmu told Qinzian after Feng Wu left, "If we don't let her go home, no one will be there to make His Royal Highness happy. When His Royal Highness isn't happy, he'll probably lash out at us." Hence, Feng Wu returned to Feng Manor. She was shocked before she even set foot inside. Since when did they get so many visitors? Nobody ever came to the Feng family. Why was there red silk draped over the front gate? Feng Wu saw Feng Yanfeng greeting the guests outside the front gate in a fake humble tone. "Xiao Wu isn't half as good as you say. Divine Phoenix blood? There's nothing special about that. It's only slightly better than true Phoenix blood." Feng Wu was speechless. What a familiar scene. When she was 5 and still a little genius, her uncle used to do this. He might sound modest, but nothing could hide the big smile on his face. Feng Wu shook her head. Instead of using the front gate, she returned to Fallen Star Yard by jumping over the wall. Chapter 2910, Show Off 4. Chapter 2910, Show Off 4. The White Fairy stared at Fairy in astonishment. She knew about Master Phoenix, and she knew Chu Tianxiao was Feng Wu's third senior brother, and that Master Mu was Feng Wu's master. However, she never thought the girl would have divine Phoenix blood. How could anyone be so lucky? Was she really the chosen one? The White Fairy gave Feng Wu an envious glance before walking away. Feng Wu said, "White Fairy." The White Fairy shouted without looking back, "I need a moment to calm down." That was how any ordinary person would react. Feng Wu shrugged. She knew the White Fairy was just having a grumpy moment, and would soon go back to normal. The whole world seemed to have been agitated by her divine Phoenix blood, and Fallen Star Yard was the only safe haven. Her beautiful mother was as innocent as ever. Chaoga still trusted her unconditionally. Uncle Chiu and Granny Zhao were still hard-working people, and Xiuling spared no effort in her cultivation. The Imperial Palace. What? Emperor Wu almost fell off his chair when he heard the news. Master Gao the eunuch nodded with a smile. "Your Majesty, the news is everywhere. They all know that Miss Feng Wu has the unique divine Phoenix blood." Emperor Wu's eyes became frighteningly bright. He grabbed Master Gao's arm so hard that Master Gao thought his bones would crack. The Emperor was no longer a young man, but he moved so fast. "What did you say? The divine Phoenix blood? My precious daughter-in-law has that bloodline. Are you sure?" Emperor Wu's eyes sparkled. Master Gao suspected that if he said no, His Majesty would break his neck. There was a bright smile on Master Gao's face. "Your Majesty, of course I'm sure. The Crown Prince's future wife has the divine Phoenix blood. Imagine how bright their children will be." Master Gao chuckled. Emperor Wu jumped to his feet. He put his hands behind his back and paced around in the spacious study. "The divine Phoenix blood. For real? My family is so blessed. Is it true? Can it be a lie?" thought the Emperor. "Summon the Crown Prince. Find people who watched the competition. I want people from both schools." Emperor Wu rubbed his hands and took a deep breath as he tried to calm his pounding heart. Ordinary people thought the divine Phoenix blood was just a more impressive bloodline than the true Phoenix blood. The influential forces knew Master Mu had that bloodline. Only the imperial family knew the secret of that bloodline. OMG, Emperor Wu was so excited. People from both schools arrived before the crown prince did. Emperor Wu talked to them in person. From their statements, Emperor Wu was almost certain that his daughter-in-law indeed had the divine phoenix blood. Chapter 29:12 Tease. Chapter 29:12 Tease. Master Gao said, "What?" Emperor Wu said, "Those families don't just have outstanding younger members. Some of the middle-aged members are equally impressive. What if Feng Wu prefers a mature man? What should we do?" Master Gao said, "What?" Emperor Wu said, "Forget it. You won't understand." He left the room, looking for someone that he could talk to. Who should I go to? Empress Duge then. She's the most considerate person. She used to have some disagreements with Feng Wu, but she's been saying many good things about that girl. She must like Feng Wu a lot now. So, Emperor Wu went to see Empress Dugu. Empress Dugu was quite happy recently, probably because Feng Wu hadn't been around to upset her. However, divine phoenix blood? Empress Dugu ground her teeth, feeling as sick as if she had swallowed a fly. Yes, the divine phoenix blood. Isn't it great? She's our daughter-in-law. Emperor Wu said proudly. Empress Dugu thought, "Go away. I don't want that daughter-in-law." Seeing Empress Dugu's frozen smile, Emperor Wu frowned. "Didn't you say you've reconciled with Xiao Wu? You said you did something you weren't proud of too. I thought you liked that girl." Empress Dugu didn't know what to say. Like that girl? When Feng Wu joined Imperial College, Empress Dugu thought she wouldn't be back for a few years. That was why Empress Dugu played the good wife and said those things. But now, she could only scream in her head. When talking to her husband, she had to fake a smile and pretend to be the good wife that she was supposed to be. That's great news. What a lovely girl. Empress Dugu's smile looked more like a grimace. Emperor Wu should have noticed it, but he was too absorbed in having such an amazing daughter-in-law that he failed to discern the Empress's emotions. He feigned a modest tone. "Don't say that. Our Xiao Wu is only slightly better than your niece." Empress Dugu wanted to roll her eyes. "If you weren't smiling so broadly, I would actually believe you." Although she knew Emperor Wu was showing off to her and complimenting Feng Wu by belittling Zhuo Qingwan, she still had to agree with everything he said. Empress Dugu felt as if she was being slapped repeatedly. She decided she would never forgive Feng Wu. Was Emperor Wu going to stop when he saw Empress Dugu's expression? No, Emperor Wu wasn't a considerate person. He smiled at Empress Dugu. "My mother has been in poor health recently. Come with me. Let's tell her the good news. Maybe she'll feel much better." Empress Dugu was almost in tears and gave Emperor Wu a pleading look. Emperor Wu found it suspicious. "You don't look happy. Do you still have objections about Feng Wu?" Chapter 29:13 Precious Teenage Girl. Chapter 29:13 Precious Teenage Girl. Emperor Wu found it suspicious. "You don't look happy. Do you still have objections about Feng Wu?" No. Of course Empress Dugu couldn't admit her jealousy. That would mean she had been telling lies until now. The emperor could allow mistakes, but he wouldn't tolerate lies. She put on the most professional smile. "Your Majesty, I'll come with you." The Empress Dowager resided in Sinang Palace. She hadn't been feeling well these days, and had been spending most of her time in bed. Granny Lan asked gently, "Your Majesty, shall we summon Miss Feng Wu to have a look?" The Empress Dowager darted a stern look at her. Granny Lan was on Feng Wu's team, but she wasn't the Empress Dowager's only maid. Granny Zhu moved closer and said, "Firmament Palace has great doctors, and Miss Zhuo Qingwan is their sacred lady. I'm sure she's wonderful." The Empress Dowager didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. Of course, she knew what Zhuo Qingwan could do. She used to like the girl, but the girl seemed to have her secret agenda, so the old lady didn't like her that much anymore. Seeing that the Empress Dowager didn't say no, Granny Zhu moved closer and whispered, "Not only is Miss Zhuo Qingwan a great doctor, she's also very pretty. Most importantly, she's the only one with true phoenix blood in our empire." Granny Lan frowned. With the true phoenix blood, she's indeed more efficient in her cultivation, but the Empress Dowager favored Granny Zhu recently, so Granny Zhu glanced at Granny Lan and went on. Your Majesty, you've been lying in bed all the time. I don't think there's anything wrong with your health. I think you just have nothing to do. The Empress Dowager's face darkened. What was she supposed to be doing then? Granny Zhu said, Your Majesty, if His Royal Highness gets married and has a baby, you can watch the baby running around in the palace. Sinang Palace will be so much more lively. The Empress Dowager was persuaded. That was so true. Baby Jun had been the most amazing boy. He was so handsome and so smart that the most arrogant elders had to recognize his capability. If he had a baby, the Empress Dowager said, only the most beautiful and precious girl can have baby Jun's child. Granny Zhu smiled. Of course, Your Majesty, His Royal Highness already has an excellent bloodline. If the mother also has an outstanding one, it'll be a perfect match. The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up. Granny Lan lowered her head and smiled wryly. Everything Granny Zhu said was to bring up Zhuo Qingwan and her true phoenix blood. Granny Lan felt sorry for Feng Wu. She would be perfect if she hadn't lost her true phoenix blood. What a pity. Granny Zhu took the Empress Dowager's hand. Your Majesty, which girl in the Zhenwu Empire do you think has the most precious bloodline? Chapter 29:14. Find baby Jun a divine phoenix blood wife. Chapter 29:14. Find baby Jun a divine phoenix blood wife. The girl with the most precious bloodline. The first name that popped into the Empress Dowager's head was Feng Wu. Deep down, she was convinced by Feng Wu's medical skills, but she didn't want to admit it. Moreover, she didn't like Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan being close to each other, which was why she was hostile toward the girl. The second name was Zhuo Qingwan. The Empress Dowager frowned. Are you referring to Zhuo? Yes, Your Majesty. It's Miss Zhuo Qingwan. She has the true phoenix blood, which makes her the girl with the most precious bloodline. The Zhuo family must have paid Granny Zhu generously. She sang Zhuo Qingwan's praises whenever she could, trying to make Zhuo Qingwan the perfect candidate. Zhuo Qingwan, is it? The Empress Dowager knew Zhuo Qingwan had the true phoenix blood. She also knew how rare and outstanding that bloodline was, but she still felt something was missing. Your Majesty, do you not like her? Granny Zhu asked tentatively. The Empress Dowager frowned and spoke her mind. There's nothing wrong with Zhuo Qingwan, but I just feel. She pictured Zhuo Qingwan standing by Jun Linyuan's side, and something didn't feel right. Something's still lacking. She shook her head. Granny Zhu panicked a little. What's lacking? The Empress Dowager shook her head. I don't know, but Zhuo Qingwan isn't good enough for baby Jun. Granny Zhu smiled wryly. Your Majesty, His Royal Highness is unique. Yes, the true phoenix blood isn't good enough. Only the divine phoenix blood is. The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up. Divine phoenix blood? Are you saying a girl has that bloodline? Where is she? Granny Zhu said, Your Majesty. The Empress Dowager no longer felt sick. She said, I know why I don't like Zhuo Qingwan. I know what the problem is. What problem? Granny Zhu and Granny Lan looked at the Empress Dowager. Meanwhile, they heard footsteps outside. His Majesty the Emperor and Her Majesty the Empress are here. The Empress Dowager looked up to see Emperor Wu, who was followed by the reluctant Empress Dugu. She immediately got out of bed. As soon as Granny Zhu and Granny Lan helped her into her shoes, she ran toward Emperor Wu. You're here. The Empress Dowager looked thrilled. I finally figured it out. The Empress Dowager held Emperor Wu's hands in excitement. I know what kind of girl Junjun should marry. She was so agitated that she was almost incoherent. Zhuo Qingwan won't do it. She's not good enough for baby Jun. Listen to me. We must find baby Jun a girl with the divine phoenix blood. The Empress Dowager clutched Emperor Wu's hands. Do you hear me? She has to have the divine phoenix blood. Only the divine phoenix blood is good enough for baby Jun. Anything else would be an insult. Do you hear me? Answer me. The Empress Dowager was perplexed when she saw the strange look in her son's eyes. Chapter 29:15. It's Feng Wu. Chapter 29:15. It's Feng Wu. The Empress Dowager was perplexed when she saw the strange look in her son's eyes. Emperor Wu felt conflicted. The Empress Dowager had been doing everything in her power to sabotage the marriage. If she knew what she was doing, Emperor Wu wanted to laugh. He wanted to tease the old lady. He knew the answer, but he wouldn't tell her. Instead, he said, "Mother, the divine phoenix blood is so hard to come by." The Empress Dowager glared at him and snorted, "I've made up my mind. Only the divine phoenix blood is good enough for Junjun." Emperor Wu said, "Well, we do have true phoenix blood." The Empress Dowager said, "No, that's not good enough." She glared at Emperor Wu. "Why won't you give me a straight answer? Have you forgotten that Junjun is your son? He has to marry a girl with the divine phoenix blood. There's no other option." Behind Emperor Wu, Empress Dugu looked upward, trying to ignore the conversation. She wished she couldn't hear anything. Emperor Wu fought back his urge to laugh. He held his mother's hands and led her toward the bed. "Mother, if that's your request, there's only one candidate." "There is one." The Empress Dowager stared at Emperor Wu in disbelief. Emperor Wu said, "Yes." The Empress Dowager asked, "Where is she? Which family is she from? Why are you still here? Send her a marriage proposal." Emperor Wu cleared his throat. The Empress Dowager frowned. "Answer my question. How old is she? Is she too young?" Emperor Wu stopped his mother before she let her imagination run wild. "She's here in the Zhenhua Empire, and she's 14, Emperor Wu announced. "Nonsense." The Empress Dowager threw off Emperor Wu's hands and sat down on the bed. "Stop teasing me." Emperor Wu chuckled. "Don't you believe me?" The Empress Dowager said, "No." Emperor Wu said, "I'll let the Empress tell you who the girl is." Empress Dugu wished she was somewhere else. Emperor Wu glanced at Empress Dugu. "Tell my mother who the girl is." Empress Dugu felt so frustrated. The Empress Dowager said, "I don't want her niece. Not in a million years." Empress Dugu felt even more frustrated. Emperor Wu smiled proudly. "Dugu, tell my mother who has the most precious bloodline." It was like asking Empress Dugu to slap herself. She decided to get it over with. She took a deep breath and said that name. Feng Wu. She was so loud that it almost made the Empress Dowager jump. "Huh. She didn't catch the name. What Wu?" Emperor Wu laughed. "Mother, she said Feng Wu." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.